Tuesday estimates for Endgame are currently running at $32.9 million, which is a little bit of a disappointment. It is still a very large amount of money, but it is an 11% drop over what it got on Monday. This brings its total to $426.8 million for the US domestic market. If we now take a look at our chart with Star Wars The Force Awakens, Avatar, Infinity War, Jurassic World, The Last Jedi, and Endgame, Endgame's in the light blue, the teal colour, we can see that it's sort of moving a little bit towards the right. So still in front of everything by a long margin at this point in time, but it is moving towards the dark blue line. So Star Wars The Force Awakens is behind Endgame, but it has made up a little bit of ground from the Monday and the Tuesday box office. Now, that's not all that unexpected that The Force Awakens has earned more money on the Monday and the Tuesday. The Force Awakens was released around Christmas time, and so there's a lot more people available to be able to view it on the Mondays, the Tuesdays, the Wednesdays, and the Thursdays. What we can see from the chart is it's looking harder and harder for it to go underneath The Last Jedi. So the purple line there, that was my kind of worst case scenario. It'll be very difficult for it to go under that. It's still possible. It is still under the purple sort of total at this stage, but it'll be very, very, very difficult to think that it can do that. And at the same time, because The Last Jedi isn't that far away from Jurassic World and Infinity War, it looks like it's very difficult for it to earn less money than any of those films. Now, it could still earn less money than Avatar, but it really looks like it won't at this stage. It really looks like it has to earn more money than what Avatar earned in the US domestic market. And again, all of these are not with inflation. So these are the non-inflation totals. The only real question from the chart is whether or not it can stay competitive with The Force Awakens. So with this $426 million in the US domestic market, that will break the fastest to 400 record. It was about $5 or $6 million short of hitting it yesterday, which would be its fourth day. So it has got it on its fifth day. The previous record is 8 days for The Force Awakens, and this has done it in 5 days. Now, it should beat The Force Awakens to the $450 million mark. It should beat the 9 days for that, and it really should beat The Force Awakens to the $500 million mark in under 10 days as well. So very soon it will probably have all of these records, and The Force Awakens won't have any. At this early stage, there aren't many figures for films out. Unfortunately, the Captain Marvel number isn't available yet. I really would like to know what its percentage change was. I expected that Captain Marvel and Shazam would get around about a 50% increase, and that Endgame might get that, but I was very unsure because we're just dealing for a lot of money. But not only did Endgame not get a 50% increase, it didn't get an increase at all. So it's a kind of bad sign, but it's just coming from a lot of money. It's still very hard to predict what will happen because it's not easy to boost this ridiculously large amount of money up like a so-called normal film might do. So you can see here that The Curse of La Lorna had a 46% increase. That was sort of expected. Shazam had a bit of a bigger increase of 71%. That may be due to some more screens being available for Shazam because of the sort of Disney deal in North America where they didn't allow anything to keep its screens except for Captain Marvel and Endgame. So that may be due to that, but I really wanted to see what Captain Marvel actually did, if it increased by 50% or not, or has it done something similar to Endgame, as it had an 11 or a 10% drop. But nonetheless, the 11% drop, not great news for Endgame. The $32.9 million, still a massive amount of money, but I really expected it to be somewhere above $37 million today. When we look at the record box offices for Tuesday, we can see it does not get the record. The record was $37.3 million from The Force Awakens. So this $32 or $33 million will put it in the third best. So it'll get more money than The Force Awakens got on its second Tuesday. Not by much, but not more than what The Force Awakens got on its first Tuesday. And The Amazing Spider-Man also earned more money on its Tuesday. Looking forward to Wednesday, there's not really a chance of breaking any records there. A lot of films, or some films I should say, have an opening on Wednesday. So the Twilight Saga Eclipse that has the record, $68 million, that's its opening day. So it's not a real Wednesday, if you like, or a Wednesday after the opening. This is actually opening. So there will be no records for Endgame on Wednesday. It'd be very hard to think that it'll get more than $68 million. You can see there Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, and Harry Potter, the Half-Blood Prince, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. those films there all opened on that day, and that's why they have such a large amount of money on it. If we take a look at this set of numbers here, these are on a Box Office Mojo, all of the comic book adaptions. So where does Avengers Endgame fit in here? Well, it's got $393 million. Box Office Mojo hasn't updated to these figures yet, but the current number, as said, is about $426 million. So that puts it above the number 14. It'll replace number 14 there, Captain America Civil War. So it has actually earned more money than what Captain America Civil War earned in its entire box office run. And it'll just move up from there. So you really should get more than $20 million tomorrow. I'd project more than that, but if it gets $20 million tomorrow, it'll move up another 2 spots. So it'll be underneath Avengers Age of Ultron after having only been out for not quite a week. So that's really where it's stacking up compared to these. And you can see at the very top, the number 1 US domestic box office gross with inflation for comic book movies is Marvel's The Avengers from 2012, and it looks like it'll very easily topple the $692 million there. Now, if you look at number 2, if you sort of know your box office numbers, you'll see Black Panther there, and it says $687 million, but Black Panther got about $700 million in the US domestic market. Well, the reason that it's decreased is that there is ticket price deflation in 2018 and 2019. So if we put inflation on Box Office Mojo, it actually decreases the amount of money something earned in 2018 if we put the 2019 inflation on, because the ticket prices, or at least their official average ticket prices, have decreased. So that's why that number is actually $687 million. That's less money than what Black Panther earned in its real actual total. The same goes for Avengers Infinity War. It was also released in 2018. So the $652 million there for number 4, that is less money than it actually earned last year. But because tickets are cheaper this year, according to Box Office Mojo, that money has been reduced. It has been deflated. This chart here has the Force Awakens box office in blue and the Avengers Endgame box office in green. So the blue line is what the Force Awakens had for its first 18 days in the box office. That's to the end of the 3rd week. So the end of the 3rd week, that's what we've got there. And then the green line is the Endgame for the actual amount we have so far. So that's to the Tuesday. So that's the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And then the red line is what I'm projecting it'll get if it runs the same as Infinity War. So if it gets the same kind of increases and decreases that Infinity War had, it will be slightly ahead of The Force Awakens at the end of the 3rd weekend. Now, so far, it has outperformed what Infinity War would have done on the Monday, but it has underperformed what the Infinity War would have done on the Tuesday. So it's actually a little bit different the way the money's going right now. Because of this decrease on the Tuesday, the box office really isn't conforming to any other film, and it's also got a lot more money than other films, so there's not a higher film to kind of put it up against. So there's still not really anything to go, oh, this is looking like this film over here will get a similar run to that. So when we get the Wednesday numbers, we'll have some more data and we'll be able to average it out a bit more and get a bit closer to what might be happening. But at this stage, the Monday was a bit maybe larger than expected, and the Tuesday is a bit smaller than expected. So the box office is getting massive numbers and also not quite going in line with what other films have done on a Monday and on a Tuesday. On the international numbers, we have a total estimate right now of just over $1 billion for the international box office. Now, I think there's around about $70 to $100 million extra from China that is not included in that number. But a lot of the other numbers are estimated, and what day they're from is all over the place. So what's happening here is what generally happens with a lot of the films, is the international numbers come in very slowly and they're all over the place. It was quite good for the weekend, probably because they knew it was going to be a record. There was all kinds of extra reporting happening, but now it's gotten back to where most films are. So this $1.05 billion, it's missing at least, let's say, $100 million at know-off. It's probably missing a couple of $100 million more that aren't reported, and the reports will just be slow from now on. But using this figure here, $1 billion, just over $1 billion, that's half of what Avatar got for its entire international run. So Avatar got $2 billion internationally, and it got about $760 million in the US. That's how it got its $2.7 billion. So halfway to the Avatar international total, and that puts its total worldwide box office right now officially at $1.4 $1.48 million, so just under $1.5 million. If we look at the world inflation-adjusted totals, that will place it as the 30th biggest film of all time using inflation. And obviously we have a long way to go. So it's just underneath Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men's Chest. And the next one on the list there is the Avengers Age of Ultron. So it has nearly out-earned Avengers Age of Ultron right now with putting inflation on Avengers Age of Ultron. You can see underneath it, it has just overtaken James Bond, Goldfinger, Forrest Gump, Grease, and Frozen. I guess that's Frozen #1. Looking at tomorrow's estimated box office for Wednesday, if it runs anything like Infinity War, it'll get somewhere around $24 million, but I really think it'll earn more than that. If it goes from $33 million down to $24 million, that's a much bigger drop than I would expect. But again, the Monday was bigger than I thought it would be. The Tuesday was smaller than I thought it would be. So what will the Wednesday do? I have no idea. I don't know how the Wednesday will actually run. But at this stage, if it goes anything similar to Infinity War, we're looking at $24 million. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.